Hey everybody, Kyle here with some more Duelyst content. Not now, if you saw my last real video, not the apology one, but if you saw the post-nerf deck testing where I was working on Vitruvian, I mentioned briefly that I had turned my sabotage deck into more of a tempo sabotage. I'm going to get into that later, what I mean. And I said that if the deck continued to do well, like it seemed it was doing, that I was going to make a video on it. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a deck tech here. If you want to see me playing the deck on ladder, I played 3 games in Diamond with it on 2 videos ago now. But I'm going to go ahead and post a link to that in the description as well. Let me bring up the deck. It's the only deck I currently have made at the moment because it's just too much fun. But so this deck, before I get into it, back in, like, right out of beta, the whole time I was in beta, I was playing Vitruvian. Well, that's false. I was playing Magmar, and then right near the end of beta, I believe, I switched over to Vitruvian because I noticed like Blind Scorch and Zenrui and Dominant Will and Imar Healer, and there were all these cards that were really cool that I really liked, and that has continued with the most recent expansion, especially, to grow. There are just more things in Vitruvian that I really, really enjoy about the faction. They're not when the S rank win rates of all the generals came out, Vitruvian was decently low. Every single general had more than a 50% win rate, and that's just due to the fact that people in like high S can still get matched against Diamond, depending on elos and the time of day and stuff like that. But at the same time, Vitruvian was, while they were lower in the win rate, their decks are just really fun. I also don't net deck, so I'm not using a deck that is net decked. How I make decks is I look at a faction like Vitruvian, and I take all the cards I really like from the faction, and I throw them in a deck. So, like Dominate Will and Healer and Nimbus, and I mean Zenrui's not obviously a Vitruvian card, but I threw Zenrui in here and stuff like that, and Falkius and Pax, and then I kind of build a deck around those cards, and that's always how I've built decks. And this one has been doing extremely well because what my inspiration is that if you're playing Tempo Xerix, for example, which this deck is not, if you're playing a Tempo Xerix deck, your opponent is going to recycle the cards in their hand and play in ways that are designed to combat what should be coming out of a Tempo Xerix deck. And if you're playing a Sabotage deck, then your opponent is going to be doing the same thing, but for Sabotage. So what I decided to do was make a deck that its first half is tempo. Mainly in the sense of like the Scorns, the Sunsteel Defenders, Kron is more of a tempo card now, less of a control card in my opinion. Stuff like that. This isn't the Tempo Xerix deck, so again, it doesn't have like what's the spell that Tempo Xerix runs? Like it doesn't have like Astral Flood, for example, as a tempo deck card and stuff like that. But it's designed to play out like a tempo deck. And then once we hit late game, once we hit about 5+ mana, we turn into Sabotage. Sunsteel Defender, a great tempo card, obviously with Force Field. Just want to throw that in there real fast, but we'll get into the card specifically in a moment. And so what happens is a lot of times, say you're fighting a Songhai player, and you're playing a tempo deck, and so they start throwing away their Onyx Bear Seal. They recycle Onyx Bear Seal, and then you start hitting like a Nimbus or a Kron or something like that, and they don't have their Bear Seals anymore. Granted, they'll probably keep Onyx Bear Seal at least one against you, just because of Imar Healer being in this faction, and you always run them. They're such a strong card. But you get the gist of it. And it's been working, like I said, extremely well. But I'm not going to keep saying that over and over again. I'm going to get into how the deck works. So, early game, it's going to work like almost any deck. I mean, you have Mystics, you have Packs, you have Primus Fists, all solid 2-drops. Man, sorry, I keep yawning. I'm going to edit those out, but if you see animations jumping around and stuff like that, or weird pauses, it's because I'm yawning. So early game 2-drops, we have Mystic, we have Pax, we have Primus Fist. Obviously, Pax is the dream. You definitely want to be either double Paxing when you're going second or single Paxing when you're going first. But Healing Mystic Primus Fist, solid 2-drops. This is nothing new. Pax also, because it gives you the 2/2/2 dervishes, not only can they win you the early game exceptionally well, especially if you're able to grab more mana with them, but another strong thing is if you're going first and you play Pax, Pax dies, spawns 2 dervishes, and then you get to use first wishes on the dervishes so that the general can't just hit them and kill them. And this, of course, goes for the dervishes from your hero power as well. Or Bloodborne spell, sorry. Solid targets. Most of the cards in this deck are pretty solid. Especially, and it also gives you card draw, of course. So early game, like I said, pretty consistent. Use First Wish if you can to draw into your mid-game and late-game threats, as well as getting more favorable trades in the beginning, forcing your opponent to expel more resources to deal with your early drops. You know, using Mystic to heal other things so they trade better. Mystic is a very underrated card. Or I shouldn't say that, because Mystic's used in a lot of decks, but I mean, like, what I should say is Mystic has a lot of value in this deck. I mean, obviously you can heal your general, but it can help get things out of range of dying to your own Blistering Scorn. It can allow you to trade better. You know, your Nimbus can get even more value out of it, etc., etc. And Primus Fist with our hero power giving 2/2 dervishes, with Pax giving us dervishes, with Kron giving us 2/2 minions of general varieties. You know, with us getting dervishes from Nimbus's obelisks. There's tons of great targets for Primus Fist as well. Though late game, this card doesn't really do a whole lot, because usually our board is so overwhelming that we don't always need the reach, but it's always welcome. Now, Blistering Scorn is the first card that I'm going to talk about for a lengthy amount of time, or at least in great detail. When I first saw this card, I was like, 3 mana 3/3, because it does 1 damage to itself. I was like, this card doesn't seem super exciting. You know, it hurts everybody, it hurts all your stuff, all their stuff, it hurts you, it hurts them, it hurts itself. That doesn't seem too great. But to be honest, other than the parts where it's obvious, if you're fighting against an Abyssian Swarm deck who just happens to have way too many Wraithlings for your liking, and if you're fighting a Magmar who casts Chrysalis Burst or has a few things with Rebirth on the battlefield, you can, instead of having to waste extra attacks, not only killing the things, but then also popping the eggs, you can just kill everything until it goes into an egg, and then cast Blistering Scorn and wipe the eggs off the map. They're also great because Jaxi True Sight is starting to pop up, and so is Gravity Well is seeing a lot of play right now in Vanar. So even though the combos right now is you play Kara, you use the new version of your Bloodborne spell to get a bunch of buffed Jaxis or buffed walls with the Gravity Well. If this deck tempos out in the beginning, in the early game, which it very well can, then sometimes they're forced to just play them on curve or without their Bloodborne spell being off cooldown. And if you're able to force them to do that and then cast Blistering Scorn and immediately wipe that Gravity Well or that Jaxi True Sight, you're guaranteed to win the game. I've had quite a few people concede after casting Chrysalis Burst or Jaxi True Sight into a Blistering Scorn. Very, very strong card. Very strong card. Falkius. This card is probably, if you play Vitruvian, or if you play against a lot of Vitruvian, you already know the value of this card. But a 3 mana 3/3, solid stats. Gives your general +2 attack for this turn. That's fantastic. Your general also takes no damage this turn. Not just from the attack, but no damage at all. In the mirror matchup, that means you can cast Falkius on your general, or you cast Falkius, and then use your general to, say, finish off an Imara healer. And yes, your opponent will gain the 5 life, but you will not lose the 5 life, because it's not lose 5 life, it's take 5 damage. You will not take that damage. It does protect you from the 1 damage of Blistering Scorn, though usually if you're playing 2 minions on the same turn, you would rather take the 1 damage from Scorn than have Falkius become a 3/2 so the enemy general can't just kill it. Falkius also helps you if, say, your opponent has a Shadow Dancer on the battlefield and you have a way to kill it, but you kind of have to cut through some stuff to get to it. If you play Falkius, your general won't be taking all the damage from her Deathwatch ability. There's all kinds of ways this card comes into. Even if it's just finishing off a provoke minion, like a Primus Shieldmaster, or anything like that. Just, you take no damage. It's a fantastic card. Also, if you're going first, this card can help you completely gain board control against an opponent, where, say, they walk up, they play they play minion an adept. Say you're fighting Lionor and they play an adept and an adept. Your one thing you can do is, say, move your Primus Fist forward, play Falkius on the top mana spring tile, then move your general forward. Your general kills the minion below the enemy's mana spring tile, and then you first wish the Primus Fist, and then it kills the one on the mana spring tile. And now not only do you have full board control and a pretty large hand size because of the draw from first wish, but you also have a 3/3 on the board, and your opponent only has their general. Repulsor Beast. Now, this is the card that I ended up putting in over the Ephemeral Shrouds. Ephemeral Shroud, I think, is decent. Silence is very strong. But Repulsor Beast, even though it's 1 more mana, it really gets a lot of value in a different way. It's not... I think Ephemeral Shroud and Repulsor Beast are equally strong cards, but they require a different mindset to play. With Ephemeral Shroud, you're playing with the idea of, I will just silence something, and then I'll be able to deal with it easier, or it'll die if, say, it was buffed with, like, Cosmic Flesh, and it had already taken some damage, and then after the 3 health was removed, it died. And that's it, and then I'll have a 1/1 that'll probably just die to whatever the hell, But the main problem with that is that not only did the 1/1 literally die to anything, but against Cassiva, for example, she could just cast the 1 mana spell that turns the space into Shadow Creep and draws her a card, and would kill it. She could use her Bloodborne spell and just get free Shadow Creep out of it. Your opponent, if your opponent's playing Scorn, or if you play Scorn, it would die. There's just a lot of ways that it just dies. Whereas Repulsor Beast doesn't die to those same things. It still dies to a general attack, or basically anything attacking it at all. But the 2 health compared to the 1 health is a really big deal. But the reason also why I say that it's just a different mindset is Repulsor Beast still is equally good in my opinion, because if it's a provoke, yes, you're not able to remove provoke, you're just pushing it away. But there have been situations with Ephemeral Shroud where the enemy general has had a provoke protecting them, and even when I silenced it so that I could attack their general, the provoke minion taking up one of the spaces around their general still blocked lethal. Whereas now Repulsor Beast not only gets rid of the provoke like Ephemeral Shroud would, but it moves it off the space so that all of your minions can then get to the general and do damage. Another good thing about Repulsor Beast is whereas Ephemeral Shroud would just silence something, but then you still had to be able to get to it and kill it, Repulsor Beast, for example, could take a enemy Falkius. You could, granted, this isn't usually the kind of thing you want in a Repulsor Beast, but just as an example, you could Repulsor Beast a Falkius over next to a Sunsteel Defender and then kill it. Things like that. You could Repulsor Beast a 4 Winds Magi from Songhai over to your Nimbus and smack it. Or over to your healer and smack it. Things like that. Over to Zenrui and smack it. You get the idea. You can Repulsor Beast a Lantern Fox away well, I'm about to say you could Repulsor it closer to yourself and then Zenrui it, but honestly, that if you can cast Repulsor Beast next to it, you can cast Unruly next to it. So that was kind of a dumb example, but you get what I mean. It has a lot of value. Intrepid Decay, destroy an enemy minion nearby your general. This is just solid. It gets provokes off your general. You know, like Roared, Ironcliff, Guardians, anything that you just need to go away, it gets rid of. Fantastic card. You know, you can walk up and kill things that you don't necessarily want to attack, like Spectral Revenants. You can Intrepid Decay them. You can Intrepid Decay the Juggernauts that Cassiva plays that get boosted by her Shadow Creep. You can Intrepid Decay like a Third Wish to Dervish. All that stuff. Just kill it. Intrepid Decay. Lightbender. This card is good for quite a few reasons. One, there are quite a few decks going around right now that you want to silence a lot of things at once. And it's another reason why I'm not too worried about Shroud anymore. There's been very few times where I've wanted to silence a single thing. In Wall Kara, you want to Lightbender a bunch of walls all at once. Just get rid of all of their value, get rid of their buffs. They just become, you know, they basically just become structures, but without any benefit. You still probably want to kill them when you have extra attacks and aren't going to do anything, just so your enemy can't spawn things around them, of course. But they're no longer a threat. You can use it to dispel a bunch of Vesper minions in Fae, as well as her walls. You can use it to dispel ranged minions or buffed minions in Songhai that have Killing Edge or Mist Dragon Seal on them. You can use it to dispel minions against Vitruvian, like Armor Healer, so that she no longer provokes you and doesn't do the health trade. You know, you can use it to to silence Nimbus, so that Nimbus doesn't spawn Obelisks anymore. And speaking of that, you can throw Lightbender down against Structure Vitruvian and just stop all those Obelisks from even spawning anything. Such a good card. The only reason why it's only a 2 of, though, is because while it's definitely a game changer, it's not one that you're really ever going to cast 3 of. And if you do have 3 and you end up having more than one of them in your hand, it's not really a healthy hand for you to have. Oh, and not to mention, since it dispels spaces and not creatures, you can even dispel a whole bunch of Shadow Creep against Cassiva, which would weaken all of her Shadow Creep's energy. Sunsteel Defender. This card is so good, but it can only be played in specific times, and I'll tell you what I mean. You mainly want to play this card, not necessarily when you're already winning. It's not a win more card, but this is a card that you want to drop when you're feeling safe. You almost never want it to be the only minion on the battlefield for your side. But when your opponent is low on minions or provoked or in a weak situation, throwing a Sunsteel Defender down, plus since it's only 4 mana late game, you can even throw down, say, a Pax with it, or you can go Sunsteel Defender, Falkius, and then kill something important. You just always want to play Sunsteel Defender in a position where it's a threat they have to deal with because of the force field, but they can't afford to deal with it because you have other things going on. Like on 9 mana, for example, Nimbus and Sunsteel Defender is great because it's 2 things that they have to deal with right there, or they'll go out of hand. Solid card. Very much I want to say that this is truly an underrated card. It doesn't see a lot of play, but it's so good. Like, I can't tell you enough. Inquisitor Kron. Now, I know with what I call the meta mind, that is somebody who plays decks that are, net decked meta or whatever, and whenever something gets nerfed, they think of that as it's become bad, not it's become balanced. Kron got balanced down to a 4/4. It's still 6/6 of stats, 1 with provoke and 1 with another keyword for 5, and if he survives a turn, you get more 2/2s out of him. And in a deck like this, where you're already playing the tempo game, there's a good chance that when you play Kron, your opponent's already suffering a little bit if your game has been going well. Even if your game has been going even, to the point that you guys both don't really have a big board, and then you drop a Kron, that's still good, because their general can't just smack him, and they have a 2/2 to worry about that'll have some ability that is usually going to be bad for them. Frenzy. The Frenzy minion, can be AoE removal. The Force Field minion Usually requires them to put enough attention into it that Kron survives, or they can't kill both of them, and then the force field minion trades up for like the next couple turns, or does continuous damage to the opponent. The rush minion is basically a removal spell instantly. Flying is really good against Songhai, because you can go pick off the 1/1 and the 3/2s and all those ranged minions. It goes on and on and on. You get the idea. In this deck, for instance, you don't always want to play Kron as the big frontline brawler, lock down the opponent card that he used to be. That's more what IMR Healer is there for. But Kron just is an attrition card to keep getting the 2/2 value out of him while he pushes forward with you. Maybe have him guard your back against Songhai and stuff like that. Is strong. Is very strong. This card, in my opinion, is still very good. It's definitely a good card. It's just not overpowered anymore. Nimbus. I feel like this card's very self-explanatory. We're a tempo deck. A 3/8 is already great stats. It forces your opponent to have premium removal or some way to polymorph or silence it, and even if they just silence it, it's still a 3/8 body which can trade and hit and do all kinds of stuff for a very long time. Nimbus she'll almost never go anywhere once you play her. And the fact that if they have to remove her with damage, you're going to get like 2 or 3 obelisks guaranteed out of her. If you combine that with Healing Mystics, if your game's going well enough that you can use Healing Mystics on her, or if you feel safe enough to do it, then you can get more obelisks, and then those obelisks not only then force your opponent's attention, or if they hit them with minions, kill the minions, but those are also going to spawn 2/2s, which can push for lethal and give you board control, or give you reach to summon things in better places, etc., etc. Nimbus is a very strong card. The only reason why Nimbus isn't a 3 of, I was thinking making Kron a 2 and Nimbus a 3. The only reason why Nimbus is not a 3 is because being able to play Kron and provoke something and then force your opponent to have to deal with Kron, as well as get that 2/2 immediately that can do something, he's just slightly faster than Nimbus when it comes to, tempoing your opponent out. Slightly faster. Obviously, you get less stats. You get 12 in stats as opposed to... Oh, actually, now think about it. You actually get more stats. Yeah, this is only 11 stats, huh? So you get 4 plus 4 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4, and then 8 plus 4 is 12. So you get 12 stats out of Kron on the first turn you play it. And with Nimbus, you only get 11. So technically, you even get 1 more extra stat. And it's split among 2 minions. Just, after playing a lot of games, I'm happy with Kron being a 3 of and Nimbus being a 2 of. It's totally fine. Healer, again, a card that I think everyone's going to already understand why it's good. 5/5 Provoke is a very good body. It's a very good ability. And the fact that if your opponent doesn't have a way to polymorph or silence her, you're going to be gaining health, which in this deck is a big thing. Yes, your opponent takes 5 damage, and that is very helpful for you. But since we're playing a long endgame grinder deck, getting the 5 health is really important. It's extremely important. Solid card. Now, Zen Rui. This is another card that was technically nerfed, but in this deck specifically, at least, it actually ended up being much better for us. And what I mean by that is, Zen Rui used to be a 5-mana 4/3. Now, if you look at our deck already, that means we had 3 Krons, 2 Nimbuses, and 2 Zen Ruis on the 5 slot, putting our 5 at 7 cards. Whereas our 6 was only the healer. So we had 7 5s and only 3 6s. And we're a deck that's kind of focused on our later game, and a deck that wants to play its hand out slowly. So by moving Zen Rui to a 6-drop and giving him 1 more health, not only does he no longer die to Phoenix Fire, or to like Frostburn, or whatever the big Vanar AoE is, or a buffed Twin Fang, I mean. He now not only lives through a bunch of different spells that normally would have killed him, he even survives, a Dervish that's being buffed by a Fireblaze Obelisk, for example. He's not not only does he steal a minion, but he takes a bigger commitment to kill, and he helps our curve. Even better. This is a solid card. And to be honest, there's so many value minions out there to grab. The main one being Lantern Fox. Sometimes you can get away with grabbing a Chakri Avatar. You can grab obelisks from Vitruvian. With Vanar, you can grab a lot of their Vesper minions. All kinds of stuff. There's a lot of really solid cards to grab with Zenrui. And he's definitely worth it. Definitely worth having. Only has a 2 of, though, not 3. And then finally, Dominate Will. Dominate Will is one of my favorite cards in the game because not only does it deal with an opponent's threat, but it then makes it your threat, and you get to use it on them. Dominate Will feels really good on Imar healers. Nimbus, it feels really good on things like Vorpal Reaver, Spectral Revenant. Getting Dominate Will lethal by grabbing a buffed up Saberspine, Elucidator, or Manticora is always pretty fun as well. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with Dominate Will. And that's the deck. It's extremely fun to play. If you're a bit of a Timmy like I am, and for those of you that don't know Magic the Gathering terms, a Timmy is somebody who really likes playing crazy awesome monsters. They love playing minions with cool and over-the-top effects, and I definitely am that person. This deck is for you. Again, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't an extremely strong deck. It's doing really good in scrims with the Tournament Mystic team. It's doing solid on ladder, even with the nerfs to some of the cards here. And I really think you guys should give it a shot. I hope you guys enjoy the deck. Let me know how it does for you, or if you make any changes to fit your playstyle better. I'd like to hear what you did. And excellent. That's the deck. Liquidkitten's Tempo Xerix. No, it keeps changing this. Tempo Sabo. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah. You guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.